Welcome into Saw is War. My name is Dustin, and it is a great day to talk about wrestling because this week was jam-packed with, felt like so many big moments and things. And then normally I record these on Friday night, edit them either Friday night or Saturday morning, and then post it up Saturday. I'm really glad I did not do that because I'm recording this Saturday night, and we had quite a lot happen in the world of professional wrestling today. I'll run through a couple of those things really quick, and then I will dive into everything else. Normally, I try to have, the note sheet I use to record all set out with, things I want to hit before getting to the main point, and then just diving really more in depth to the main point of the episode. This week, not really big main point. There's so much going on. I kind of figured better to just round up everything in case you missed it. And then go from there. So if there is anything that did not make the sheet, if there's anything I do not mention, please leave a comment on YouTube, or you can send an email in. I will put the email address in the show description on any podcast platform, and I will have it in the YouTube as well, just in case you'd prefer to send it that way. Totally fine either way. I really appreciate anyone that does send anything in. That is awesome. But yeah, let's dive into this. So Saturday was particularly eventful. News came out that Darby Allin was hit by a bus out in New York City today, and then decided to go see a Broadway show afterwards, and posted pictures of himself like immediately after the accident, and then also like in the show, like in the Broadway theater. And, for someone whose whole life is stunts, like he's a tatted up hot rod, it's crazy that, like, stunts just find him. He's currently out recovering from a broken foot that kept him from climbing Mount Everest. If you want to think about that for a second, think about everything in that sentence. And just one more crazy thing. And I think the craziest thing about it is that, like, it's 100% believable. Like, is that, like, are you stunned to hear, like, oh, he got hit by a bus? Yeah, but, like, then when you think about it, you're like, okay, it might come out later that he jumped in front of a bus. Like, we also had news on the WWE side of things that Drew McIntyre has re-signed with the company. There was tons of talk and speculation about his status, with his contract coming very close to the end date. We found out I never would have guessed how we found out, which is The Rock posted on Instagram that he had a sword, a custom sword, delivered to Drew McIntyre in honor of re-signing. And I guess it was, a callback to a conversation that they had behind the scenes where he said he would get him that if he stayed. So there we go. Drew McIntyre has been on an unbelievable run since coming back most recently, and this heel run he's been on. So to see that he's staying there, hopefully this is not just like a confirmation that he's happy with where he's at and with everything that he's doing, but that there's more to come for this character and for this story, because this heel run has been unbelievable. Some of the best work, I think, of his entire career. Nick Khan, the president of WWE, sold all of his stock in TKO this week. And that is not good, because earlier last month, he was named as one of the anonymous or unnamed executives that was aware of what was happening with all of the Vince McMahon stuff. So him being named in that, and then now a month or so later selling all of his stock, could be a sign that he might be out sooner rather than later, which would then make even more sense as to why they brought someone like The Rock in to kind of be like the public figurehead. Because I believe Nick Khan was his manager before getting involved in the corporate side of things with WWE. So I don't know. I don't really want to speculate a whole lot on this, just because I don't know. We won't know until something happens, which is kind of the unfortunate side of stuff like this. But it's important to note he sold all of his stock. He has not left the position he's in or the company or anything as of now. But I don't really think you you do that unless you're planning something or something is happening soon. So just something to keep an eye on. But really interesting timing as well. It is hard after that to dive into, a little bit more lighthearted topics here. But let's get to the wrestling this week. Monday Night Raw was kind of just a lot of stuff to build towards the draft this week, that started this week, I should say, on this last Friday's SmackDown. But there were some really cool things that still happened there. Chad Gable has officially started this heel run with just an absolutely vicious promo on the rest of Alpha Academy, where he kind of just like bullied them into saying that they would be loyal to him. I still really want him to team up with the Creed brothers. I'd love to see them become like Team Angle 2.0 and just like be the dominant heel trios running around. But we'll see. Maybe they're building something to that. But I like the idea of him being able to show this type of, you know, depth and character. I think it could really push him further. Obviously, we all know what a good wrestler he is. So to get this character depth could be a huge boost and push for him going forward. We also had a brutal beatdown. Ludwig Kaiser kicked Giovanni Vinci out of Imperium after losing to the New Day in a match that was like, why are they wrestling the New Day again? And then it ended and you're like, oh, they're staying in the ring a little long. Oh, okay. I see what's happening here. And Ludwig Kaiser put the beat down on him. And I don't know what the stars forecast for Giovanni Vinci's singles run. I don't see him being like a big time singles competitor, but I'm curious. And this beatdown, I know the teammate turning on another teammate on a best friend has been tried and true, but this one was really well done. This one looked brutal at a couple of the spots that they hit, and I think it might actually go a long way to building Ludwig Kaiser a lot of heat too, because it looks like they're keeping him with Gunther for now. And this is probably a pretty nice way to make sure that crowds continue to boo them. And then lastly, the last thing I want to talk about for Raw, we had a war of words between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus on the mic before Sheamus wrestled Shinsuke Nakamura in a good match as well, where McIntyre made tons of fun about Sheamus coming back and looking overweight. Sheamus went at McIntyre for tweeting it out like he's a little teenager. It was great. They're clearly like such good friends and such longtime friends that they're perfect together. And if this is the program that they're getting ready to set up just to get through the next couple of weeks, it's perfect. It's the perfect get back for Sheamus. It's the perfect way to keep Drew McIntyre busy with like engaging topics and engaging matches and stories. And especially now with the news that he's re-signed, this isn't going to be more just like a filler. Okay, we gave him this just to kind of buy time until he's ready to go. So that kind of makes me think that there's going to be a little bit more depth to it than normal. And honestly, just anytime these guys get together, the match pretty much cooks. So I don't think we should be complaining at all. I think this is going to be it's a very easy, ready-made recipe for just great matches. NXT built for the draft a little bit more as well, but it felt a lot different. There was a lot more in the air about like who's going to get called up. This could change their careers. What's going to happen? There were a couple big title defenses. It was NXT Spring Break in week 1. And there were a couple really, really good matches that stood out. There was a triple threat women's match for the NXT women's title with Tatum Paxley, Lyra Valkyria, and Roxanne Perez. That was awesome. If you get the chance to see it, you've got to check it out. And there was a lot of talk this last week about some comments that were made about Tatum Paxley and about her character and doing like the crazy character. And it was particularly, I think it was Jim Cornette and a couple people of that ilk that were like saying like she's the worst at it of them all. They came out on Tuesday and had an absolute banger of a match where she was like on the cusp of winning the title a few times and had the crowd like going nuts to the point that like it kind of seemed for a moment that they were going to do it. Like the crowd was so behind her, and she had one of her best performances, I think, in recent months and in recent matches. So definitely, really, I think was a great response to all of that without having to come right out and respond to it. And just a showcase, too, for just how talented the NXT roster is kind of top to bottom. That you can have, you know, you pull 3 women out like this and they can just show out and have a 25-minute opening match that completely, you know, sets the tone for what you want the rest of the show to be. We did also get Monumental moment that we had all been waiting for. Trick Williams is your new NXT champion. He beats Ilya Dragunov in a match that when it started, they only had like 7 minutes left before the end of the show, or like the scheduled end of the show. And they've made everything count. I know it went a couple minutes over that, but they fit so much into everything that was going on. They packed so much into that time. And there was a great callback at the end to their first match where they kind of both stood opposite sides of the ring and charged at each other and who could hit their finisher first. It's a little interesting because the AEW Dynasty pay-per-view had the Danielson-Will Ospreay match that ended the exact same way. But this was a callback to their first match, to Ilya and Trick's first match, but just such interesting timing. And they made a point in the show to show that ending of the first match and to talk about, like, this is what happened, is they each wanted to hit each other with their best shot and only one could come out on top. And they really, like, made sure to show, hey, this is how it ended before. Remember this. This isn't copying what just happened. And they did a great job of making it feel like a huge night. They had all these old NXT stars come back and talk about what a big moment this was, and they were in the crowd watching a couple of them, and it was great. It was executed to perfection in that it felt like the end of an era for NXT, like heading into a new season, however you want to call it, like a new iteration with Trick at the helm, and likely losing Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov and others to the main roster via the draft. So it's going to really be on his shoulders. And there were talk last week about him not being good enough and him just being over because he's charismatic and because the crowd likes to chant his music. But I really think he gets better every week, and I'm really glad that he's getting this opportunity. So he is the NXT champion. The building was literally shaking when he won. They posted footage of the cameras. Like, you could see it on TV. Like, the cameras were shaking because of how loud that building was. And if that does not convince you that the fans were ready and he is ready to be a champion, I don't know really what else to tell you. And then SmackDown, we had the first night of the draft. That was the bulk of the time. We did get an instant classic match right away, which is awesome. Carmelo Hayes shocked everyone and was drafted in round 1 to SmackDown and debuted that night, taking on Cody Rhodes in a non-title match. And it was awesome. Carmelo Hayes had a chance to show out, and he did. You can always count on him for basically a great match. He meshed with Cody really well. And it seems like they're going to go the route of, like, maybe presenting him as a babyface. Cody gave him the nod of respect. He was treated as a big deal, but he wasn't treated as, like, the conniving monster heel he had been this last couple months on NXT. So I'm curious if that's what's going to happen. There was a scary moment where they both attempted springboards at each other, and it looked like Cody Rhodes really messed up his shoulder. But there's been no other mention of it since, so I'm going to go with no, he's okay. So we'll see, but hopefully it looks like it's nothing super serious, which is great. And with the draft, the other really good thing is that Bianca Belair went number 1 overall. Like, she was the first pick for SmackDown, the first pick of the draft, because they did this time they did it with champion immunity, where champions couldn't be drafted. They were staying on their shows that they're the respected champion of, which is awesome. That's a great way to do it. With, instead of doing the weird, like, okay, now we have to swap belts, or now we do this. So Bianca Belair goes 1 overall, which is awesome. It's a huge moment for the women's division. It not that she needed any more establishing as, you know, one of the top just wrestlers in the company, but there you have it, number 1 overall pick. Overall, it was also it was just underwhelming. We had the couple NXT call-ups. Carmelo Hayes gets drafted, and then Kiana James also surprisingly got drafted and kind of, like, seemed to change her character a bit. Like, if they did an interview segment with her from NXT watching the draft where she was like, I can't believe it, I'm so excited, and it felt out of character, so maybe she was just caught up in the moment, or they're just doing, you know, the draft is just going to be a hard reset for anyone that gets called up, but we'll see how long that lasts, because her character is probably part of why she got called up so suddenly, so quickly, because it is just such a well-established, easy to hate heel. But we had those call-ups. We had a couple, cool moments. The match that came out of it with Cody and Carmelo was, of course, awesome. But other than that, it was kind of just They did this thing where they had legends come out and do the different picks for the rounds. And that was really cool. I did like that. It was cool to see the Dudley Boys together again. It was cool to see Tori Wilson, Michelle McCool. We'll see what happens. I know Raw will probably have more going on anyways, just because it is a 3-hour show. And then they did some other stuff where, like, Raw drafted Braun Breaker. And this is after SmackDown a couple months ago had won, like, the bidding war for him. And so, like, I don't understand the logic of being mad about, like, we had this bidding war. We got him. And then not drafting him early on. Like, just, if you're that worried, just take him. But, like, there were these logic points like that kind of always happen when it's a WWE draft. I do reserve judgment. I'll wait until everything is done, because what I really want to see is what happens with NXT. And if NXT is going to be, able to draft anyone to them, or who might be going to NXT, I think there might be, we might see, like, trades happening. But overall, for the first night, it kind of just felt like a draft like normal. Outside of the NXT call-ups being really cool, and just being excited for those guys. So we'll see. Like I said, I'll reserve judgment till Monday and when the draft is finished. But after one day, after one half, it kind of just felt like any other WWE draft. On the AEW side of things, we were coming off of Dynasty, which was top to bottom, one of, if not the best pay-per-view that AEW has put on from a wrestling standpoint. It was an incredible show with incredible matches. Danielson, Ospreay, I know everyone's saying match of the year already. We had the great Okada-Pac match that opened the show. The tag team ladder match was great. Jack Perry returned. All of these things, but the most important thing is that we have a new AEW World Champion, and it is the first Black World Champion in AEW history, Swerve Strickland. That man has ridden momentum like a wave, just up, 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 and he deserves all of that success. It is incredible to see. The moment of him finally winning, and the crowd going crazy, and what he's ushering in, and what he will likely usher in for AEW is huge. And I like that, too. They started off throwing him out there right away into a match versus Kyle Fletcher with the title on the line. And those guys went out and had a great show. Like, they had a great showing on Dynamite. It was a great way to start his run, his defenses, whatever you want to call it, his run with the title, his run as the top champ. Often these championship reigns are kind of noted for, how few title defenses there are. Like, you picture the champion in a suit holding the belt, like, oh, I'll fight you, but not tonight. Like, stuff like that. Like, they just come out and cut the promo and start building to the next pay-per-view. But to come right out of the gate with him wrestling someone like Kyle Fletcher, who, is new enough that you didn't really think he was going to win, but is established enough, and what he is and what he's about as a wrestler, you knew it was going to be a good match. And so I think that was a really smart, great way to kick off the Swerve Strickland era, if you will. And then the rest of the show, too, there was, the first hour was dedicated to basically all of the different stories happening in the women's division. Willow Nightingale had her moment celebrating the TBS championship. She talked for like 40 seconds. And then Mercedes Moné interrupted her because they're going to be wrestling at Double or Nothing, which looks like it'll be Mercedes' first match in AEW, which feels risky. I don't know if she's not cleared. I don't know if they're saving it to make it a big deal, but I would think that, like, you would want, like, coming off a major, this almost cost me my career type of injury, you would want to, like, have a welcome back match first before going right into a major spot on a pay-per-view. But who knows? That might be just part of the plan to, make her a super heel who comes out and just gets opportunities and, coming off of the buzz that they had in signing her, it's not like that would be a bad idea. But if it's not, and this is all just happening organically, you're running a pretty risky thing here, where if the fans turn on Mercedes and boo her and don't want to, see her just get opportunities, and all of this has been in earnest and not to try to make her a heel, it's going to look really dumb. It's going to look really foolish. So we will see what happens with it, but it was great to see the first hour pretty much being dedicated to all of the different women's stories. There was also this Battle Royal match to determine who would challenge Roderick Strong for the international title at Double or Nothing. that was kind of like the Royal Rumble, where people just came out in time intervals and fought each other, but like to win was one pinfall, which was kind of weird, because then it just turned into here's 15 guys, here's 10 guys like packed into the ring trying to get pins. It's like a 2K24, like a WWE video game nightmare. Like when you try to pin someone in like a multi-man match and the computer just can run in every time. Like that, it felt like watching that in real time. And then Will Ospreay came out and everyone was like, oh, okay, so Will Ospreay's going to win this. And that's exactly what happened. There was a great moment with him and Jay White. Some great wrestling with him and Kyle O'Reilly. Jay White and Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly and basically anyone else in the ring with him. Ultimately, it is set. We have got Will Ospreay challenging Roderick Strong at Double or Nothing in a match that is going to be fascinating for a lot of reasons. Will Ospreay has not lost yet in AEW since signing full-time, and Roderick Strong and the Undisputed Kingdom kind of need this to continue to establish themselves. They've been on kind of a start-stop-hold type method for so long with this Adam Cole injury, which also, he was there walking without a wheelchair, without a boot, anything, so good on him. Spitting in the face of all of those reports last week that said he was sent home because it was not helping his rehab. So clearly, don't know what I'm talking about. He came right out to just kind of, give a message to the haters, if you will. And they kind of just need it. So we'll see what happens in this build to this feud. But the only thing that you really need to know is that Roderick Strong and Will Ospreay are going to put on a clinic. And they're probably going to be the best match of the night on Double or Nothing, depending on how the rest of this card shakes out. And then to finish the show off, to finish off this episode of Dynamite, we had something that I did not think we would ever see, which is Tony Khan steps into the ring with Jack Perry to bury the hatchet and to get Jack Perry reinstated to AEW. And he comes out, they have a quick little moment, they shake hands, Tony Khan lifts up his hand and holds up his arm, and wouldn't you know it, Jack Perry attacks him with a microphone. The rest of the Elite come running out, and after a couple teases, the Young Bucks hit him with the Meltzer driver, the EVP driver, whatever you want to call it. They drop Tony Khan. Tony Khan's not moving. The whole roster comes out to check on him and see if he's okay. The legend Shad Khan comes out. His dad comes out to check on him, looking like an absolute legend. And then the next day was the start of the NFL draft, and everyone was like, is he going to do it? And he did it. There he was in the Jaguars war room with a neck brace on, not keeping kayfabe too well. He was moving around a little bit, a lot of this happening, conversations, but he had it on. And, sometimes that's all you need. And I was just surprised. I don't think I ever expected them to get to this point where he was an on-screen character to this extent. Like, obviously, he comes out and does the special announcements and things like that, but to put him into the story like this, I'm a little surprised. I did not think that this day would ever come. And, building off of that publicity that came from him at the draft on Thursday, the NFL Network decided to interview him, and they're talking about AEW and about the Jaguars, and he gave a soundbite. I'm just going to play it. I don't want to even try to summarize it, anything like that. So here is Tony Khan on the NFL Network.
AEW, like the Pepsi of pro wrestling, WWE's like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. And I'm really proud of what we do down here.
All right. I think, all right, Tony, we're going to...
So, I don't know what the logic is to be like, we're Pepsi and they're Harvey Weinstein. It's such a weird, misguided thing to say for so many reasons. Not the least of which is the fact that there are a couple people on the AEW roster with some accusations and things in their past that you might not be wanting to throw stones at. And especially coming around this time with all this Nick Khan news with the stock, Vince McMahon is gone already and he finished selling all his stock this week. Just an odd timing to make that comment when, like, the person that you're taking the shot at is publicly has been severed from WWE completely now, basically. And like I said, with people on the AEW roster with questionable pasts and accusations and things as well, it's just, there's no, like, even the announcers on NFL Network were like, okay, oh, all right. It's just weird. It's just dumb. It's dumb to keep taking these big moments to shine a light on your company and using them to take a shot at the rival. To be like, you know how not bothered I am by the rival? Let me tell you how not mad. Write that down. Write down that I was not mad. And it's pointless. It takes away from what they've been doing. This was an incredible week for AEW. Dynasty was their best pay-per-view, or one of their best pay-per-views. Ospreay Danielson is already being talked about as the best match of the year, possibly even like all time. I'm hearing people say, like, people are throwing such high praise for this match. Right, it got 6.5 Meltzer stars. Like, it's unbelievable the positive publicity that AEW has been having. And now, here at the end of the weekend, at the end of one of their best weeks, the biggest headline is that he hopped on TV and talked about WWE. It's like Tony Twitter fingers right back at it again. And it's such a bummer. It's such a bummer to have these, like, one step forward, two step back type of moments with publicity. Like, something that should just be like, let the wrestling, let the shows, let everything do the talking for you. To come out and just take pot shots like that. And I understand that that's kind of how it goes, and that's been happening in wrestling, for a long time. But it doesn't really feel like WWE does that a whole lot. Like, Triple H had his comments recently about, being scared of the grind or don't want to grind or anything. And I know that, was something a lot of people pointed to. But, like, I don't think anyone would go on WWE programming or on an interview for something else and, like, just take a shot at something like that. Like, I don't know. It was just interesting. It just felt like such a misguided thing, and such a bummer of a incident to have happen at the end of such a good week, if that makes sense. Like, it was a great week for AEW. Just enjoy everything that they put out and everything that happened on the shows. Because it really was. It was close to like a perfect week of booking until you get to him hopping on NFL Network in the brace. But there was some good that came of it. He did say he will sign and they will auction off the neck brace for charity as part of like the Rich Eisen Run Rich Run charity drives that they do around the draft time. So that's good, at least, if that's going to be happening. That's a really cool way to kind of continue to do good with the whole angle and with everything, and with integrating the wrestling angles into the NFL. It's such a big sport, such a big platform, obviously. And a couple more little things just before I hop off for the day. We had a couple more releases. We had Von Wagner and Cameron Grimes both released from WWE, which is kind of shocking. I think Trevor Lee, formerly Cameron Grimes, will probably go and excel basically anywhere he decides to go. I've seen people clamoring for him, AEW, TNA, New Japan, basically anything he does, he's probably going to be putting on a show, because he's someone that probably should have gotten more in WWE, or like sent back to NXT in the draft or something, like to give him that platform, because that dude is so talented. He got that like investing to the moon gimmick over. Like, that dude can do anything. It's a really weird moment where people online got really mad at Bray Wyatt's widow, JoJo, for going to Coachella and having fun with her friends. Don't be that. Don't be mad at that. Don't be mad. Like, someone going and dancing and having fun with their friends and dancing in the car, doing whatever. Like, just let her be. Let her grieve. Let her have a night out. Like, I have not seen so many wrestlers hop in some accounts comment section as I did in this, like, to just all dunk on the person who started this conversation online. And, whatever, like, you just went through like a life-altering tragedy months ago, and you get the chance to go out and have fun with your friends. The last thing you should be worried about is having to, like, I hope people aren't mad online about that. Like, no, live your life, try to heal as best you can, and enjoy the time that you can with those friends and those loved ones. And I just could not believe when I hopped on and saw why JoJo was trending under Coachella for 2 days. Like, do we need 2 days of discourse on letting someone live their life? I guess. I don't know. But that I think is the last thing I have. I do not want to end on that, I should say. I took the time, I wrote down a couple matches that I think if you did not get the chance to watch much this week, or if you don't have the chance to catch up on everything, I wanted to start doing like matches of the week, matches to watch, whatever you want to call it. I'm not ranking these in any order. They kind of just ended up being the order that I watched them because of like the days they happened. So it is, I guess, to that extent in show order. But watch any of these, watch all of these, whatever you can. All of these were great for different reasons. So the matches I have this week that I wrote down are Trick Williams versus Ilya Dragunov for the NXT title, Swerve Strickland versus Kyle Fletcher for the AEW World title on Dynamite, Cody Rhodes versus Carmelo Hayes on SmackDown, Swerve Strickland versus Claudio Castagnoli on AEW Collision, which happened tonight. That is right. We have had 3 banger Swerve Strickland matches in 1 week. That is incredible work rate for the AEW champion. No press tour or anything. He did his interviews and he is right back to work. That is a champion of the people, if you ask me. And then lastly, also on Collision, we had Rey Fenix returning from a lengthy injury recovery to take on the Beast Mortos in... This is probably, if I had to pick a must-see out of this list, this is probably it, because these two dudes got out there and tore the house down for like a solid 20 minutes. They had that crowd eating out of the palms of their hand, and Rey Fenix, for being, out with an injury and for so much of his offense being so high-flying, he did not look like he missed a step. It was unbelievable. So if you can only watch one of these 5 matches, I would say watch that first. Otherwise, any of these are well worth checking out. Please do if you get the chance. And if there's anything you liked that I missed, any matches that stood out to you that I did not mention here too, please hit the comments, send in emails, anything like that. Let me know what I missed. Let me know what your thoughts are about everything that happened this week. I know it was a crazy week with a lot going on, but hopefully there was some stuff in it that you enjoyed. And if you watched this video, listened to this podcast anywhere, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.